everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am bringing you the new releases for April, May, and June. So this is a video that I like to do every quarter, so that's why we're doing 3 months at a time. And these are all new releases that I personally am very excited for. I actually have 40 of them to share with you today because, as we know, my TBR is never ending and I constantly am putting books on my want to read list on Goodreads and that kind of thing. So yeah, 40 books coming out within the months of April, May, and June of 2022. I think we're gonna jump right on into it because of the fact that this is probably gonna be a sort of long video. So first up, we have 9 books coming out on April 5th. The first one is Scout's Honor by Lily Anderson. I really enjoyed Undead Girl Gang by this author, and so I'm very excited about this one. I don't remember pretty much what any of these are about, which is why I'm going to read the summaries, but this cover looks very intriguing. 16-year-old Prudence Perry is a legacy ladybird scout born to a family of hunters sworn to protect humans from mullagrubs, interdimensional parasites who feast on human emotions like sadness and anger. Masquerading as a prim and proper ladies' social organization, the ladybirds brew poisons masked as teas and use knitting needles as daggers, at least until they graduate to axes and swords. 3 years ago, Prue's best friend was killed during a hunt, so she kissed the scouts goodbye, preferring the company of her punkish friends, lovingly dubbed the Criminal Element, much to her mother and Tia Lo's disappointment. However, unable to move on from her guilt and trauma, Prue devises a risky plan to infiltrate the ladybirds in order to swipe the tea of forgetting, a restricted tincture laced with a powerful amnesia spell. But old monster-slaying habits die hard, and Prue finds herself falling back into the fold, growing close with the junior scouts that she trains to fight the creatures she can't face. When her town is hit with a mysterious wave of demons, Prue knows it's time to confront the most powerful monster of all, her past. Then we have Dead Girls Can't Tell Secrets by Chelsea Itchiso. Piper Sullivan was in a strange hiking accident last month and has been in a coma ever since. Her older sister Savannah can't pretend to be optimistic about it. Things look bad. Piper will likely never wake up, and Savannah will never get any answers about what exactly happened. But then Savannah finds a note in Piper's locker, inviting Piper to a meeting of their school's wilderness club at the very place and on the very day that she fell. Which means there was a chance that Piper wasn't alone. Someone might have seen something. Worse, someone might have done something. But who would want to hurt the perfect Piper Sullivan, and why? To discover the truth, Savannah joins the club on their weekend-long camping trip on the same mountain where her sister fell. But she better be careful. Everyone in the club is a suspect, and everyone seems to be keeping secrets about that tragic day. And Savannah, she's been keeping secrets too. Then we have Shinji Takahashi and the Mark of the Coatl by Julie Kagawa. Shinji Takahashi is just an ordinary kid, an ordinary homeschooled smart alecky orphan kid being raised by his Aunt Yui. But when a magical guardian decides to use him as a conduit to awaken its power, Shinji's life takes a turn for the extraordinary. Captured by the menacing High Tower Corporation, which is bent on using the Guardian's magic for its own nefarious purposes, Shinji must team up with a brilliant young tech whiz named Lucy and her robot mouse Tinker to escape the corporation's evil clutches. Together, Shinji and Lucy turn to the venerable society of explorers and adventurers, and its ragtag cast of spelunkers, hackers, mapmakers, pilots, and mythology experts, among other things, to return the Guardian to its rightful home and release Shinji from its magic, which seems to be draining his life force. Time is ticking, the High Tower Corporation is hot on their tail, and success or failure might depend on one small thing. Shinji finally coming around to the belief that he is anything but ordinary. Then we have Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. History is told by the conquerors. Across the Western world, museums display the spoils of war, of conquest, of colonialism. Priceless pieces of art looted from other countries kept even now. Will Chen plans to steal them back. A senior at Harvard, Will fits comfortably in his carefully curated roles. A perfect student, an art history major, and sometimes artist. The eldest son who has always been his parents' American dream. But when a mysterious Chinese benefactor reaches out with an impossible and illegal job offer, Will finds himself something else as well. The leader of a heist to steal back 5 priceless Chinese sculptures looted from Beijing centuries ago. His crew is every heist archetype one can imagine, or at least the closest he can get. A con artist, Irene Chen, a public policy major at Duke who can talk her way out of anything. A thief, Daniel Leung, a pre-med student with steady hands just as capable of lockpicking as suturing. A getaway driver, Lily Wu, an engineering major who races cars in her free time. A hacker, Alex Huang, an MIT dropout turned Silicon Valley software engineer. Each member of his crew has their own complicated relationship with China and the identity they've cultivated as Chinese Americans. But when Will asks, none of them can turn him down. Because if they succeed, they earn $50 million and a chance to make history. But if they fail, it will mean not just the loss of everything they've dreamed for themselves, but yet another thwarted attempt to take back what colonialism has stolen. And then we have God of Neverland by Gamma Ray Martinez. This is obviously going to be a reimagining of Peter Pan, but I believe our main character is going to be Michael Darling, who should be the youngest of the Darling children. Peter Pan is missing. Neverland is in trouble. For adults, that might not matter all that much, but for children whose dreams and imagination draw strength from the wild god's power, the magic we take for granted in the real world is in danger of being lost forever. Such is the life of a now grown-up Michael Darling. Michael returned from Neverland with the dreams of continuing his adventuring ways by joining the Knights of the Round, an organization built to keep humanity safe from magical and mythological threats. But after a mission gone terribly wrong, he vowed to leave the Knights behind and finally live as a civilian, finding order and simplicity as a train engineer, the tracks and schedule tables a far cry from the chaos of his youth. He hasn't entered the narrative in years. So what could the Knights need from him now? Mapanos, or how he's better known, Peter Pan, has gone missing, and Neverland is now on the edge of oblivion. Michael realizes he has no choice and agrees to one last mission. Alongside the young knight Vanessa and some old friends, Michael embarks on the ultimate adventure, a journey to a fantasy world to save a god. Determined to stop evil, fight for Neverland, and find Mapanos, will Michael be able to save the magical and physical worlds, or will his biggest fear come true? The clock is ticking, and in Neverland. That's never a good sign. Then we have Witchlings by Claribel A. Ortega. This was originally supposed to come out on March 1st and has currently been pushed back. This one I did talk about in my last video. I'll link it down below in case you're curious, but it's going to be a middle grade fantasy about witches, and in this society you have to like get sorted into your coven, but we end up with characters who did not get sorted into any coven and have to create their own, but in order to actually do that and get their magical powers, they have to go on a quest. I am very, very excited. Then we have Alone Out Here by Riley Redgate. The year is 2072. Soon a volcanic eruption will trigger catastrophic devastation, and the only way out is up. While the world's leaders, scientists, and engineers oversee the frantic production of a space fleet meant to save humankind, their children are brought in for a weekend of touring the Lazarus, a high-tech prototype spaceship. But when the apocalypse arrives months ahead of schedule, first daughter Li Chen and a handful of teens from the tour are the only ones to escape the planet. This is the New World, a starship loaded with a catalog of human artifacts, a frozen menagerie of animal DNA, and 53 terrified survivors. From the panic arises a coalition of leaders spearheaded by the pilot's enigmatic daughter Eli, who takes the wheel in their hunt for a habitable planet. But as isolation presses in, their uneasy peace begins to fracture. The struggle for control will mean the difference between survival and oblivion, and Lee must decide whether to stand on the side of the mission or of her own humanity. Then we have Skyward Flight by Brandon Sanderson and Jancy Patterson. So this is going to be 3 novellas that have come out in the Skyward Flight series that are now going to be in one bind-up. Because they came out as ebooks originally, I have not read them, but I am excited about this bind-up. I actually don't even know where they come into the story. I've only read the first book, Skyward, which is Brandon Sanderson's YA sci-fi series about a girl who really wants to be like a space pilot, and she's having a hard time doing that because her dad has been accused of like something bad. I'm not going to get into even this one very much more because I need to read more, and I don't want to like look at the summary in case these come like after book 2 or anything like that, but I'm very, very excited. And the last one for this date is The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. Just weeks away from ditching DC for greener pastures, Solange Perea is roped into helping her wedding planner cousin on a random couple's big day. It's an easy gig, until she stumbles upon a situation that convinces her the pair isn't meant to be. What's a true blue romantic to do? Crash the wedding, of course, and ensure the unsuspecting groom doesn't make the biggest mistake of his life. Dean Chapman had his future all mapped out. He was about to check off, start a family, and on track to make a partner when his modern-day marriage of convenience went up in smoke. Then he learns he might not land an assignment that could be his ticket to a promotion unless he has a significant other. And in a moment of panic, Dean claims to be in love with the woman who crashed his wedding. Oops. Now Dean has a whole new item on his to-do list. Beg Solange to be his pretend girlfriend. Solange feels a tiny bit bad about ruining Dean's wedding, so she agrees to play along. Yet as they fake date their way around town, what started as a performance for Dean's colleagues turns into a connection that neither he nor Solange can deny. Their entire romance is a sham. There's no way these polar opposites could fall in love for real, right? Then moving to April 12th, there are 2 books coming out on that date. The first is The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn. Joy is in love with Malcolm, but Malcolm really likes Summer. Summer is in love with Love, and Fox is Summer's ex-boyfriend. 30, flirty, and asexual, Joy is secretly in love with her best friend Malcolm, but she's never been brave enough to say so. When he unexpectedly announces that he's met the love of his life, and no, it's not Joy, she's heartbroken. Malcolm invites her on a weekend getaway, and Joy decides it's her last chance to show him exactly what he's overlooking. But maybe Joy is the one missing something, or someone, and his name is Fox. Fox sees a kindred spirit in Joy and decides to help her. He proposes they pretend to fall for each other on the weekend trip to make Malcolm jealous. But spending time with Fox shows Joy what it's like to not be the third wheel, and there's no mistaking the way he makes her feel. Could Fox be the romantic partner she's always deserved? I am super excited for this asexual romance. I'm so ready. And then we have a picture book called Cats Can by Roseanne Greenfield Fong and pictures by Ebony Glenn. A rollicking rhyme that celebrates the playful and mischievous similarities between cats and toddlers. Whether they're stretching and scheming, playing, or dreaming, cats love to make mischief, sneak snacks, and cuddle up in a cozy spot, just like kids. Cats Can proves that kittens and kids are more alike than we think. Then we also have 2 books coming out on April 19th. The first is Go Hex Yourself by Jessica Clare. When Reggie Johnson answers a job ad in the paper, she's astonished to find that she's not applying to work at her favorite card game Spellcraft the Magicking. Instead, she's applying to be an actual familiar for an actual witch, as in real magic. The new job has a few perks: great room and board, excellent pay, and she's apprenticing to a powerful witch. Sure, the witch is a bit eccentric, and sure, there was the issue with the black cat Reggie would prefer to forget about. The biggest problem, however, is Warlock Ben Magnus, her employer's nephew and the most arrogant, insufferable, maddening man to ever cast a spell. Reggie absolutely hates him. He's handsome, but he's also bossy and irritating and orders her around. Ben's butt might look great in a crystal ball vision, but that's as far as it goes. But when someone with a vendetta targets the household, she finds herself working with Ben to break a deadly curse. Apparently, when they're not fighting like cats and dogs, things get downright bewitching. And then we also have Fevered Star by Rebecca Rowanhorse. This is the sequel to Black Sun. So again, I'm not going to read the summary of this one specifically, but Black Sun was a 4 out of 5 star fantasy for me, and the ending made me want to read this next book. Basically, we have multiple points of view in this story, and it is going to be a very sort of epic political fantasy, but based in like Central America, South America type of mythology and magic systems. And I don't even know if I can really get into it more than that because it's been a little while since I read it, but I remember absolutely falling in love with some of the characters, and I need to see where this story is going to go. And then we also have 2 books coming out on April 26th. The first is The Other Half of the Grave by Janine Frost. This is the author of the Night Huntress series, which is actually right here behind me. And this is going to be book 1, but from Bones' point of view. So these are paranormal romance type of books. And the entire series that I have is Kat's point of view. And this is going to be from the love interest's point of view. There are 2 sides to every story, and the sizzling British alpha vampire Bones has a lot to say. Ever wondered what Bones was thinking and feeling when he and half-vampire Cat Crawfield first met? Or how their story might differ if he were the one telling it? Now relive the beginning of Cat and Bones' best-selling love story through Bones' point of view, which reveals a darker, sexier take on their early days, as well as a deeper dive into Bones' past, the vampire world, and other things that Cat didn't see when their story was told only through her eyes in Halfway to the Grave. Cat had her say, now it's Bones' turn. And then we also have Nettle Bone by T. Kingfisher. After years of seeing her sister suffer at the hands of an abusive prince, Mara, the shy, convent-raised third-born daughter, has finally realized that no one is coming to their rescue. No one except for Mara herself. Seeking help from a powerful grave witch, Mara is offered the tools to kill a prince, if she can complete 3 impossible tasks. But as is the way in tales of princes, witches, and daughters, the impossible is only the beginning. On her quest, Mara is joined by the Grave Witch, a reluctant fairy godmother, a strapping former knight, and a chicken possessed by a demon. Together, the 5 of them intend to be the hand that closes around the throat of the prince and frees Mara's family and their kingdom from its tyrannous ruler at last. Then, moving to May 3rd, we have 9 books coming out on this date. The first is Freddie vs. the Family Curse by Tracy Badua. This is a very short summary. In this thrilling and hilarious middle grade adventure, a young Filipino-American boy must team up with his ancestor to break the curse that's haunted their family for generations, or be trapped in an amulet. Then we have Book of Night by Holly Black. In Charlie Hall's world, shadows can be altered for entertainment and cosmetic preferences, but also to increase power and influence. You can alter someone's feelings and memories, but manipulating shadows has a cost, with the potential to take hours or days from your life. Your shadow holds all the parts of you that you want to keep hidden, a second self standing just to your left, walking behind you into lit rooms, and sometimes it has a life of its own. Charlie is a low-level con artist working as a bartender while trying to distance herself from the powerful and dangerous underground world of shadow trading. She gets by doing odd jobs for her patrons and the naive new money in her town at the edge of the Berkshires. But when a terrible figure from her past returns, Charlie's present life is thrown into chaos and her future seems at best unclear and at worst non-existent. Determined to survive, Charlie throws herself into a maelstrom of secrets and murder, setting her against a cast of doppelgangers, mercurial billionaires, shadow thieves, and her own sister, all desperate to control the magic of the shadows. Then we have Not Good for Maidens by Tori Bovolino. I'm going into this one still saying I'm excited for it, but I'm very much tampering my enthusiasm only because I had mixed feelings on the previous book that Tori Bovolino had out last year. But this is going to be a fantasy horror retelling of Goblin Market. So, Lou never believed in superstitions or magic until her teenage Aunt Neela is kidnapped to the Goblin Market. The market is a place Lou has only read about. Twisted streets, offerings of sweet fruits and incredible jewels. Everything, from the food and the wares to the goblins themselves, is a haunting temptation for any human who manages to find their way in. Determined to save Neela, Lou learns songs and spells and tricks that will help her navigate this dangerous world and slip past a goblin's defenses. But she only has 3 days to find Neela before the market disappears and her aunt becomes one of them forever. If she isn't careful, the market might just end up claiming her too. Then we have The Stand-In by Lily Chu. This originally came out as I think an Audible exclusive just as an audiobook sometime last year, but now we are actually getting a physical print edition, that kind of thing. Gracie Reed is doing just fine. Sure, she was fired by her overly friendly boss, and yes, she still hasn't gotten her mother into the nursing home of their dreams, but she's healthy, she's somewhat happy, and she's mostly holding it all together. But when a mysterious SUV pulls up beside her, revealing Chinese cinema's golden couple, Wei Feng Li and Sam Yao, Gracie's world is turned on its head. The famous actress has a proposition. Due to their uncanny resemblance, Feng Li wants Gracie to be her stand-in. The catch? Gracie will have to be escorted by Sam, the most attractive and infuriating man Gracie's ever met. If it means getting the money she needs for her mother, Gracie's in. Soon, Gracie moves into a world of luxury she never knew existed. But resisting Sam and playing the role of an elegant movie star proves more difficult than she ever imagined, especially when she learns the real reason Feng Li so desperately needs her help. In the end, all the lists in the world won't be able to help Gracie keep up this elaborate ruse without losing herself and her heart. Then we have The Marvelers by Danielle Clayton. 11-year-old Ella Durand is the first conjurer to attend the Arcanum Training Institute, where marvelers from all around the world come together to practice their cultural arts like brewing Indian spice elixirs, practicing Caribbean steel drum hypnosis, and bartering with fussy Irish fairies. Ella knows some people mistrust her conjurer magic, often deemed bad and unnatural, but she's eager to make a good impression, and hopefully some friends. But Ella discovers that being the first isn't easy, and not all of the marvelers are welcoming. Still, she connects with fellow misfits Bridget, a girl who hates magic, and Jason, who is never found without a magical creature or two. Just as Ella begins to find her way at the ATI, a notorious criminal escapes from prison, supposedly with a conjurer's help. Worse, her favorite teacher, Master G. Thakur, never returns from a research trip, and only Ella seems concerned about his disappearance. As tensions grow in the Marvellian world, Ella finds herself the target of vicious rumors and growing suspicions. With the help of her new friends, Ella must find a way to clear her family's name and track down her beloved mentor, Master G. Thakur, before she loses her place at the ATI forever. And then we have By the Book by Jasmine Guillory. This is the second book in the Meant to Be series of companion novels. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Isabel is completely lost. When she first began her career in publishing right out of college, she did not expect to be 25, living at home, still an editorial assistant, and the only Black employee at her publishing house. Overworked and underpaid, constantly torn between speaking up or stifling herself, Izzy thinks there must be more to this publishing life. So when she overhears her boss complaining about a beastly, high-profile author who has failed to deliver his long-awaited manuscript, Isabel sees an opportunity to finally get the promotion she deserves. All she has to do is go to the author's Santa Barbara mansion and give him a quick pep talk or 3. How hard could it be? But Izzy quickly finds out she's in over her head. Beau Towers is not some celebrity lightweight writing a tell-all memoir. He is jaded and withdrawn, and it turns out just as lost as Izzy. But despite his standoffishness, Izzy needs Beau to deliver, and with her encouragement, his story begins to spill onto the page. They soon discover they have more in common than either of them expected, and as their deadline nears, Izzy and Beau begin to realize there may be something there that wasn't there before. And then we have I Kissed Sarah Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. This is going to be Casey McQuiston's first YA book. Chloe Green is so close to winning. After her moms moved her from SoCal to Alabama for high school, she's spent the past 4 years dodging gossipy classmates and a puritanical administration at Willow Grove Christian Academy. The thing that's kept her going, winning valedictorian. Her only rival, prom queen Sarah Wheeler, the principal's perfect progeny. But a month before graduation, Shara kisses Chloe and vanishes. On a furious hunt for answers, Chloe discovers she's not the only one Shara kissed. There's also Smith, Shara's longtime quarterback sweetheart, and Rory, Shara's bad boy neighbor with a crush. The three have nothing in common except Shara and the annoyingly cryptic notes she left behind. But together they must untangle Shara's trail of clues and find her. It'll be worth it if Chloe can drag Shara back before graduation to beat her fair and square. Thrown into an unlikely alliance, chasing a ghost through parties, break-ins, puzzles, and secrets revealed on monogram stationery, Chloe starts to suspect there might be more to this small town than she thought. And maybe, probably not, but maybe, more to Shara too. And then we also have Amy Wu and the Warm Welcome by Kat Jong. This is the third book in a series of picture books that are all about Amy Wu. I actually have the second one, but not the first one because they didn't have it in my bookstore, and I didn't realize I bought the second one instead of the first one, but it is very cute. I want the first, and I definitely want this one as well, which has no summary, but Amy Wu in general is a little Chinese, like kindergartner, I think they are. And we have Amy Wu and the Patchwork Dragon, which is about her class learning about dragons and her realizing that the Eastern style of dragons are different than the Western style of dragons, and is very, very adorable. I don't know what this one is actually about, but I want it. And then we also have Zachary, Ying, and the Dragon Emperor by Shiran J. Zhao. So this one is going to be this author's middle grade debut book, which I believe they're comparing to like Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm very excited. Zachary Ying never had many opportunities to learn about his Chinese heritage. His single mom was busy enough making sure they got by, and his schools never taught anything except Western history and myths. So Zach is woefully unprepared when he discovers he was born to host the spirit of the first emperor of China for a vital mission, sealing the leaking portal to the Chinese underworld before the upcoming Ghost Month blows it wide open. The mission takes an immediate wrong turn when the first emperor botches his attempt to possess Zach's body and binds to Zach's AR gaming headset instead, leading to a battle where Zach's mom's soul gets taken by demons. Now with one of history's most infamous tyrants yapping in his headset, Zach must journey across China to heist magical artifacts and defeat figures from history and myth, all while learning to wield the Emperor's incredible water dragon powers. And if Zach can't finish the mission in time, the spirits of the underworld will flood into the mortal realm and he could lose his mom forever. Then there is one book coming out on May 10th, and that is going to be Café con Lychee by Emery Lee. Theo Mori wants to escape. Leaving Vermont for college means getting away from working at his parents' Asian American cafe and dealing with their arch rivals, hopeless son Gabby, who lost the soccer team more games than Theo can count. Gabby Moreno is miserably stuck in the closet. Forced to play soccer to hide his love for dance and iced out by Theo, the only openly gay guy at school, Gabby's only reprieve is his parents' Puerto Rican bakery and his plans to take over after graduation. But the town's new fusion cafe changes everything. Between the Mori's struggling shop and the Moreno's plan to sell their bakery in the face of the competition, both boys find their dreams in jeopardy. Then Theo has an idea: sell photo-worthy food covertly at school to offset their losses. When he sprains his wrist and Gabby gets roped in to help, they realize they need to work together to save their parents' shops. But will the new feelings rising between them be enough to send their future plans up in smoke? And then there are 2 books coming out on May 17th. The first is Once Upon a K-Prom by Kat Cho. Elena Sue has always felt overshadowed. Whether by her more successful older sisters, her more popular twin brother, or her more outgoing best friend, everyone except Elena seems to know exactly who they are and what they want. But she is certain about one thing: she has no interest in going to prom. While the rest of the school is giddy over corsages and dresses, Elena would rather spend her time working to save the local community center, the one place that's always made her feel like she belonged. So when international K-pop superstar Robbie Choi shows up at her house to ask her to prom, Elena is more confused than ever. Because the one person who always accepted Elena as she is, her childhood best friend Robbie Choi. And the one thing she maybe, possibly secretly wants more than anything, for the two of them to keep the promise they made to each other as kids, to go to prom together. But that was 7 years ago, and with this new K-pop persona, pink hair and stylish clothes, Robbie is nothing like the sweet, goofy boy she remembers. The boy she shared all her secrets with. The boy she used to love. Besides, prom with a guy who comes with hordes of screaming fans, online haters, and relentless paparazzi is the last thing Elena wants. Even if she can't stop thinking about Robbie's smile, right? What would you do if the world's biggest K-pop star asked you to prom? And then we also have Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. Growing up the daughter of notorious treasure hunter and absentee father Duke Wilder left Lily without much patience for the profession or much money in the bank. But Lily is nothing if not resourceful, and now uses Duke's coveted hand-drawn maps to guide tourists on fake treasure hunts through the Red Rock Canyons of Utah. It pays the bills, but doesn't leave enough to fulfill her dream of buying back the beloved ranch her father sold years ago, and definitely not enough to deal with the sight of the man she once loved walking back into her life with a motley crew of friends ready to hit the trails. Frankly, Lily would like to take him out into the wilderness and leave him there. Leo Grady knew mirages were a thing in the desert, but they'd barely left civilization when the silhouette of his greatest regret comes into focus in the flickering light of the campfire. Ready to leave the past behind him, Leo wants nothing more than to reconnect with his first and only love. Unfortunately, Lily Wilder is all business, drawing a clear line in the sand. It's never going to happen. But when the trip goes horribly and hilariously wrong, the group wonders if maybe the legend of the hidden treasure wasn't a gimmick after all. There's a chance to right the wrongs of Duke's past and their own, but only if Leo and Lily can confront their history and work together. Alone under the stars in the isolated and dangerous mazes of the Canyonlands, Leo and Lily must decide whether they'll risk their lives and hearts on the adventure of a lifetime. Then we also have 2 books coming out on May 24th. The first is A Proposal They Can't Refuse by Natalie Kanya. Camila Vega is desperate to convince her family to update their Puerto Rican restaurant and enter it into the fall foodie tour. With the gentrification of their Chicago neighborhood, it's the only way to save the place. The fly in her mofongo, her blackmailing abuelo, says if she wants to change anything in his restaurant, she'll have to marry the one man she can't stand, his best friend's grandson. Liam Kane spent a decade working to turn his family's distillery into a contender, but just as he and his grandfather are on the verge of winning a national competition, Granda hits him with a 1-2 punch. He has cancer, and he has his heart set on seeing Liam married before it's too late. And Granda knows just the girl, Camila Vega. If they refuse, their grandfathers will sell the building that houses both their businesses. With their futures on the line, Camila and Liam plan to outfox the devious duo, faking an engagement until they both get what they want. But soon, they find themselves tangled up in more than either of them bargained for. Obviously, I like the fake dating trope because we have a few of them here. And then we also have Primal Animals by Julia Lynn Rubin. Arlie Gold is anxious about spending the summer at the college prep Camp Rockaway, the same camp her mother attended years ago, which her mother insists will help give Arlie a fresh start and will change her life. Little does Arlie know, once she steps foot on the manicured grounds, this will prove to be true in horrifying ways. Even though the girls in her cabin are awesome and she's developing a major crush on the girl who sleeps in the bunk above her, the other campers seem to be wary of Arlie, unwilling to talk to her or be near her, which only ramps up her paranoia. When she's tapped to join a strange secret society, Arlie thinks this will be her shot at fitting in, until her new sisters ask her to do the unthinkable, putting her life and the life of her new crush in perilous danger. Then there are 3 books coming out on May 31st. The first is Tokyo Dreaming by Emiko Jean. This is the sequel to Tokyo Ever After, which I read last year. absolutely loved. The first book is basically billed as like a Princess Diaries, but in Japan, and that's sort of what it feels like. I absolutely love this book. It follows our main character, Izumi, who finds out that her father is like the Prince of Japan, and so she goes over there, I think for the summer, to sort of figure out how she fits into that society being Japanese American. I absolutely loved it. I'm so excited for the sequel. And then we have Flip the Script by Lila Lee. I absolutely loved I'll Be the One by Lila Lee, so I'm super excited about this one. The first rule of watching K-dramas: never fall in love with the second lead. As an avid watcher of K-dramas, Hana knows all the tropes to avoid when she finally lands a starring role in a buzzy new drama, and she can totally handle her fake co-star boyfriend who might be falling in love with her. After all, she promised the producers a contract romance, and that's all they're going to get from her. But when showrunners bring on a new girl to challenge Hana's role as main love interest, and worse, it's someone Hana knows all too well, can Hana fight for her position on the show while falling for her on-screen rival in real life? And then we also have Theo Tan and the Fox Spirit by Jessie Kyusutanto. We are getting a lot of amazing sounding middle grade, like Asian and Chinese inspired fantasy books. I am so excited. Theo Tan doesn't want a spirit companion. He just wants to be a normal American kid playing video games, going to conventions, and using Surf pendants to cast his spells like everyone else. But when his older brother dies, Theo ends up inheriting Jamie's fox spirit Kai. Kai isn't happy about this either. Theo is nothing like Jamie, and the two of them have never gotten along. But when they realize the mysterious journal Jamie left Theo is filled with clues and secret codes, it's clear that something strange was going on with Jamie's internship at Reapling Corporation. But the only way onto the campus is the highly competitive Know Your Roots Summer Camp Program, a celebration of Chinese and Indian cultures designed to help connect students with their heritage. Theo and Kai will have to put aside their differences long enough to honor Jamie's last wishes, or the mystery he died for will remain unsolved forever. Moving into June, there is one book coming out on June 7th, which is Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. 16-year-old trans boy Benji is on the run from the cult that raised him, the fundamentalist sect that unleashed Armageddon and decimated the world's population. Desperately, he searches for a place where the cult can't get their hands on him, or more importantly, on the bioweapon they infected him with. But when cornered by monsters born from destruction, Benji is rescued by a group of teens from the local Atchison LGBTQ+ center, affectionately known as the ALC. The ALC's leader, Nick, is gorgeous, autistic, and a deadly shot, and he knows Benji's darkest secret. The cult's bioweapon is mutating him into a monster deadly enough to wipe humanity from the earth once and for all. Still, Nick offers Benji shelter among his ragtag group of queer teens as long as Benji can control the monster and use its power to defend the ALC. Eager to belong, Benji accepts Nick's terms until he discovers the ALC's mysterious leader has a hidden agenda and more than a few secrets of his own. Then there are two books coming out on June 9th. The first is Otter Still by D.N. Bryn. This is a new book in the These Treacherous Tides series by this author. It looks like it is going to be a companion novel. However, it does also look like it is pretty much directly connected to Otter Still, which was the second book sort of that came out in this series. I last year read Our Bloody Pearl, absolutely loved it, 5 out of 5 stars, one of my favorite books of the year. Have not read Once Stolen yet, but Otter Still, because it does look like it has a character that is directly connected to the second book, I'm not going to read the summary because I don't want any spoilers personally. Just know that the book that I read, Our Bloody Pearl, had like pirates and sirens, and it was so full of like action and heartfelt warmth and found family and diversity, because we do have LGBTQ characters, we have non-binary characters, we have asexual characters, we have black characters, we have sapphic characters, we have disabilities. Like, I just absolutely loved it so much that I'm very excited for this one, even though I have not read Once Stolen yet. And then we also have Onyenka and the Academy of the Sun by Tola Okogwu. Onyenka has a lot of hair, the kind that makes strangers stop in the street. She always felt uncomfortable with her flamboyant curls until she makes an important discovery. She can control her hair with her mind. Her mother quickly whisks her off to the Academy of the Sun, a school in Nigeria where Solari, children with special powers, are trained. But Onyenka and her new friends at the Academy soon have to put their powers to the test as they find themselves embroiled in a momentous battle between truth and lies. And then there's one book coming out on June 14th, which is Go Hunt Me by Kelly DeVos. Alex Rush is ready for the trip of a lifetime. She and her friends have made some creepily awesome films together throughout high school. So with only a few months left before they go their separate ways for college, they're determined to make the best one yet. an epic short film that reimagines the story of Dracula, filmed on location at a remote castle in Romania. But when they get there, it's not quite the majestic setting they planned for. Menacing weapons line the walls, the twisted halls are easy to get lost in, and with no connection to the outside world, the group is unexpectedly off the grid. After just a few hours spent under its roof, Alex and her friends have no trouble imagining how this dark, terrifying castle inspired one of the most enduring horror novels of all time. Only soon they no longer have to use their imaginations to understand the location's terrifying history. Just as they get the film's first shot rolling, one of Alex's friends disappears, and she's nearly certain she saw a cloaked stranger lurking in the shadows. As more members of the group begin to meet an untimely demise, Alex is desperate to stop the bloodshed, even if it means facing a monster she never thought would be let loose. Then there are 3 books coming out on June 21st. The first is Epically Earnest by Molly Horan. This is going to be a queer retelling of The Importance of Being Earnest, which actually I remember having to read and analyze in high school, and we watched the movie and stuff as well, and actually it's one of my favorite plays, so I'm very, very excited for this one. Jane Grady's claim to fame is that she was one of the first viral internet sensations, dubbed #bagbaby, discovered as a 1-year-old in an oversized Gucci bag by her adopted father in a Poughkeepsie train station. Now in her senior year of high school, Jane is questioning whether she wants to look for her bio family due to a loving but deeply misguided push from her best friend Algie, while also navigating an all-consuming crush on his cousin, the beautiful, way out of her league, Gwen Fairfax. And while Janie's never thought of herself as the earnest type, she needs to be honest with her parents, Algie, Gwen, but mostly herself if she wants to make her life truly epic. Then we have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. Casey Fletcher, a recently widowed actress trying to escape a streak of bad press, has retreated to the peace and quiet of her family's lake house in Vermont. Armed with a pair of binoculars and several bottles of liquor, she passes the time watching Tom and Catherine Royce, the glamorous couple who live in the house across the lake. They make for good viewing. A tech innovator, Tom, is rich, and a former model, Catherine, is gorgeous. One day on the lake, Casey saves Catherine from drowning, and the two strike up a budding friendship. But the more they get to know each other, and the longer Casey watches, it becomes clear that Catherine and Tom's marriage is not as perfect and placid as it seems. When Catherine suddenly vanishes, Casey becomes consumed with finding out what happened to her. In the process, she uncovers eerie, darker truths that turn a tale of voyeurism and suspicion into a story of guilt, obsession, and how looks can be very deceiving. And then we also have Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley. Jada Townsend Matthews is the most reviled woman in America after turning down a proposal on a reality dating show. When she comes home to lick her wounds, Jada finds herself working at San Diego's newest cupcake bakery, Sugar Blitz, alongside the uptight owner and professional football player Donovan Bell. When a reporter mistakenly believes Jada and Donovan are an item, they realize they can use the misunderstanding to their advantage to help the struggling bakery and rehabilitate Jada's image. Faking a relationship should be simple, but sometimes love is the most unexpected ingredient. I told you, lots of fake dating here. And then finally, there is one book coming out on June 28th, which is American Royalty by Tracy Livesey. Sexy-driven rapper Danielle Duchess Nelson is on the verge of signing a deal that'll make her one of the richest women in hip-hop. More importantly, it'll grant her control over her life, something she's craved for years. But an incident with a rising pop star has gone viral, unfairly putting her deal in jeopardy. Concerned about her image, she's instructed to work on generating some positive publicity or else. A brilliant professor and reclusive royal, Prince Jameson prefers life out of the spotlight, only leaving his ivory tower to attend weddings or funerals. But with the Queen's children involved in one scandal after another, and Parliament questioning the viability of the monarchy, the Queen is desperate. In a quest for good press, she puts Jameson in charge of a tribute concert in her late husband's honor. Out of his depth and resentful of being called to service, he takes the advice of a student. After all, what's more appropriate for a royal concert than a performer named Duchess? Too late, Jameson discovers the American rapper is popular, sexy, raunchy, and not what the Queen wanted, although he's having an entirely different reaction. Dani knows this is the good exposure she needs to cement her deal, and it doesn't hurt that the royal running things is fine as hell. Thrown together, they give in to the explosive attraction flaring between them, but as the glare of the limelight intensifies and outside forces try to interfere, will the prince and duchess be a fairy tale romance for the ages, or a disaster of palatial proportions? Okay, and so those are all 40 books that I'm actually very excited for. Like I said throughout this video, I do think we have quite a lot of like fake dating and also middle grade Chinese fantasy. I think some of them might just be like more Asian American, like not necessarily Chinese, but there's a lot of Chinese in here. They're all coming out like basically in these next 3 months, and I'm very, very excited for it. One, for me, because I want to read them, but also for when Presley gets older. I think it'll be something that will be phenomenal for him to read. Let me know if I missed any of the books that you are very excited for, because I'm sure there are plenty more that I don't remember or did not know were coming out, or I just had not heard of, and once you tell me, I'll put it on my list. But these are the ones I am very excited for, and that is going to be it for today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos up Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye!